Very good morning to all of you, and to continue the class about the malignant ovarian tumor. You know, the management of malignant ovarian tumor is a great clinical challenge. So, detail to management and specific treatment is very challenging also. So, detail, these are the modalities of the treatment of malignant ovarian tumor like surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and combined therapy, combination of above methods. So first is surgical treatment. It is the keystone of the primary treatment of ovarian malignancy, or it is the cornerstone in the management of the ovarian cancer. So the aim of the surgical treatments are to stage the disease, staging laparotomy, which is important for the management. According to stage, we will have to manage the case. According to classification, we have 4 stages and different sub-classifications are there. So the main aim is to stage the disease, staging laparotomy accurately. So allowing the better choice of adjuvant chemotherapy. So chemotherapy is given following the surgery, and for a better assessment of prognosis also. And another aim of surgery is to perform effective surgical removal. Effective surgical removal. Then what are the guidelines? Practically, the vertical incision, liberal vertical incision should be given. You should not be conservative about the transverse incision or the small vertical incision, because it should be liberal. Vertical incision should be liberal for better exposure and also to prevent the rupture of the tumor while delivering outside the abdomen. So liberal vertical incision should be given, and on opening the abdomen, ascitic fluid, if any, if present, it should be collected, and this otherwise if there is no ascitic fluid or very small amount of negligible ascitic fluid, then the sample of peritoneal wash should be done with 100 ml of saline in the subdiaphragmatic area and paracolic gutter, and after washing, this should be collected with a rubber catheter for the cytology. Then systematic exploration should be done of the abdominal organs, palpation of the liver and full gastrointestinal tract, subdiaphragmatic area, omentum and paraaortic lymph nodes, and also spleen, kidney, gallbladder, everything, and detailed examination should be done. Then pelvic exploration also done to know the nature of tumor and the extent of the tumor, and adhesions, whether there is much dense adhesions or not, which has very bad prognostic factor, dense adhesions, and conditions of the contralateral ovary, whether involved or not, and uterus and tips should be also examined, whether for the involvement is there or not, and palpation of the pelvic lymph nodes also should be done. And again, for seeing the metastatic deposits over the peritoneal surfaces and under surface of the diaphragm should be biopsied. Biopsy should be done. Different multiple biopsies should be done from the metastatic deposits. And pelvic and para-aortic lymph node sampling should also be done. In the absence of any metastatic disease, any deposit, any metastatic deposit, if absent, then multiple peritoneal biopsies and scraping from the diaphragm for cytology should be taken, because it may be microscopic. Hidden metastasis may there, not seen clinically, or macroscopic deposits may not be there. So multiple peritoneal biopsies should be done. Then what about the primary surgery? Again, it depends upon the stages of the disease. Again, stages of disease and age of the patient and the status of the patient. So if it is early stage, that is stage 1A, means confined to the one ovary, and grade 1 and grade 2, and the patient is young patient, then unilateral oophorectomy is sufficient. Unilateral oophorectomy affected ovary should be involved. That is sufficient for that patient. That is known as fertility sparing surgery. Only unilateral oophorectomy of the affected site. Then routine follow-up and monitoring should be continued. And after completion of family, then removal of the uterus and other ovary should be done. Hysterectomy with the bilateral salpingo oophorectomy should be done. Then if it is elderly woman in early stage of disease, hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo oophorectomy is the treatment of choice. Then in stage 1A and grade 3, even if it is confined to the one ovary, stage 1A, and but it is grade 3, means poor differentiation is there, and other stage 1 disease, then staging laparotomy is first should be done. At this stage, after laparotomy, again staging laparotomy should be done, and hysterectomy and bilateral salpingo oophorectomy to be done, and chemotherapy is given after that. Adjuvant chemotherapy is usually given almost all patients. Then if it is advanced stage of disease, means stage 2 onwards, stage 2, stage 3 and stage 4, then exploratory laparotomy. Laparotomy is exploratory, detail, again more time taking and more laparotomy, in liberal laparotomy should be done for cytoreductive or debulking surgery. As much as practicable, maximum cytoreduction of the malignant cells should be done, or debulking of the surgery as far as practicable. So in advanced stage of disease, total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo oophorectomy should be done, and complete omentectomy, infracolic omentectomy, complete omentum should be removed, and retroperitoneal lymph node sampling and resection of the any metastatic site, metastatic tumor. Then optimum cytoreductive surgery. Maximum, see cytoreduction, maximum as far as practicable, maximum malignant tissues should be removed, optimum, and it is aimed to reduce the residual tumor load. Probably, if possible, it should be less than 1 centimeter in diameter. Residual tumor load should be less than 1 centimeter in diameter, which has better prognostic value. Then lesser the residual tumor volume, that is less than 1 centimeter, better is the survival. So prognosis is better because chemotherapy will act better. Then maximum cytoreductive surgery. So maximum, as much as possible, cytoreductive surgery means involved malignant tissues should be removed. So there may be resection of the segment of the bowel if involved, and bladder and lymph node, that should be done. Resection may be required if bowel, bladder and lymph nodes are involved. And removal of the omental cake. Sometimes the omentum is formed like a cake, completely involved. So removal of the omental cake by cytoreductive surgery improves the result of subsequent chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And large tumor masses have huge number of poorly oxygenated cells in the resting phase, G0 stage, in large tumor masses, there are many resting cells or cells in the G0 that which are resistant to any therapy or chemotherapy. That is why the tumor mass should be removed as far as practicable, so that there will be removal of the resting phase cells in the G0 phase. After that, this tumor mass will be less, so that it will be chemosensitive. So lesser the residual tumor mass, that is less than 5 millimeter or less than 1 centimeter, higher the survival rate. Then next is adjuvant chemotherapy. So chemotherapy is also important. It plays an important role in the management of the ovarian tumor, malignant ovarian tumor. So chemotherapy which is given after surgery is known as adjuvant chemotherapy. After surgery, primary surgery is given over. Then after that, if there is residual tumor is there, so adjuvant chemotherapy is added after primary surgery. So again, it varies about the adjuvant chemotherapy role. In stage 1 and grade 1 epithelial ovarian carcinoma, no adjuvant chemotherapy is required. In stage 1A, grade 1 epithelial ovarian cancer, no adjuvant chemotherapy is required. Only the surgery, primary surgery is sufficient. But in all other stage 1 disease, adjuvant chemotherapy with carboplatin and paclitaxel for 6 cycles is a must in all other stage 1. But in case of advanced stage disease, that is stage 2 onwards, stage 2, stage 3 and stage 4, chemotherapy is a must. So chemotherapy is used mainly following surgery, after surgery, to improve the survival. Usually 6 cycles are given at 3 to 4 weekly interval. And usually combination chemotherapy is given, and combination chemotherapy is better than the single agent chemotherapy. And usually combination chemotherapy of paclitaxel in a dose of 175 milligram per meter square and carboplatin in a dose of 400 milligram per meter square are commonly used and also most effective combination chemotherapy for the adjuvant chemotherapy, which is given after primary surgery. Then what is the recommended dose of chemotherapy we have discussed? Carboplatin in a dose of 400 milligram per meter square for 6 cycles at interval of 3 weeks with paclitaxel 175 or 135 milligram per meter square at interval of 3 weeks for 6 cycles. Then other combination of chemotherapy can be also given, CAP or CP combination, different combination of chemotherapy are there. So CAP means cyclophosphamide, A for adriamycin, C for cisplatin. This combination can be given cyclophosphamide in a dose of 500 milligram per meter square with adriamycin 50 milligram per meter square and cisplatin 50 milligram per meter square. This is CAP regime. Or CP regime, cyclophosphamide and cisplatin combination. Cyclophosphamide in a dose of 750 to 1000 milligram per meter square with cisplatin in a dose of 50 to 100 milligram per meter square. And drugs are given IV intravenously on day 1 every 4 weeks interval as toxic interval. It should be given at 4 weeks interval. Then, apart from intravenous chemotherapy, intraperitoneal chemotherapy also given, though it is not commonly used than the intravenous chemotherapy, but intraperitoneal chemotherapy also can be used. So it is used only for minimal, less than 2 centimeter or microscopic residual disease. Only it affects the few millimeters So as the drugs can penetrate only few millimeters. So when the diameter of residual disease is less than 2 centimeter or microscopic, then it will be effective. And serum levels are similar to those seen after IV chemotherapy. So usually same. And currently both platinum, 6-platin and docetaxel are used for intraperitoneal chemotherapy. And there is distinct benefit of intraperitoneal 6-platin and docetaxel over their intravenous use, because the drugs reach directly to the tumor cells, but in intravenous it will go through the blood and then come to the malignant cells. But in case of intraperitoneal chemotherapy, the drugs direct go to the malignant cells. So primary chemotherapy for advanced ovarian cancer is done either by intravenous or by intraperitoneal chemotherapy to improve the survival rate. So next is neoadjuvant chemotherapy. We have discussed adjuvant chemotherapy. Now this is neoadjuvant chemotherapy, because here chemotherapy is given before for few cycles, then surgery, then again followed by the chemotherapy. This is neoadjuvant chemotherapy. So few cycles of chemotherapy followed by interval primary cytoreductive surgery. So first chemotherapy is given usually for 3 cycles before surgery, then interval cytoreductive surgery, interval surgery is done, then 3 cycles of chemotherapy again given following the surgery. So this is known as neoadjuvant chemotherapy. Usually 3 cycles before surgery, then 3 cycles after surgery, but again chemotherapy course depends upon the tumor markers, CA125 levels. Then what are the indications of neoadjuvant chemotherapy? Advanced epithelial ovarian cancer, advanced and high risk for surgery. It's high risk. The risk is very high, high risk for surgery, primary surgery, and associated comorbid conditions like pleural effusion. That is also very risky surgery, and predicted to be suboptimally resected. This is not the maximum resection is possible in this case. Prediction, you can predict because of some adhesions or due to CT, MRI and PET scan and tumor markers. The prediction is suboptimal resection. Then what are the benefits of neoadjuvant chemotherapy? Rapid clinical improvement, and subsequent surgery is easier and morbidity is reduced. First, there is less chance of complete surgery, but after neoadjuvant chemotherapy, there is surgery is easier, and morbidity also reduced, and optimum cytoreduction with minimal residual disease. Maximum, optimum or maximum cytoreduction can be done. Removal of the malignant tissues can be done if chemotherapy is given before surgery, and with minimal residual disease will be minimum. Then other therapies are hormone therapy like tamoxifen, leprolide, acetate, gonadotropin agonists, aromatase inhibitors like letrozole are being studied in relapse cases of ovarian tumor, relapse cases. Then immunotherapy also can be used at last with the use of cytokines, interferon and interleukin, and gene and molecular therapy and stem cell therapy, and high dose of chemotherapy with stem cell therapy also used. So the most important is fertility sparing surgery in young patients. So what is the place of fertility sparing surgery? First is unilateral malignant ovarian tumor, borderline on stage 1A, and patient willing to preserve her fertility young patient or even elder patient wants to preserve her fertility, and patient must be motivated and concentrated for close follow-up. So follow-up should be there. If she agrees for close follow-up, then also fertility span surgery can be done at risk. And contralateral ovary clinical normal. If it is involved, there is no chance of keeping the ovary. The ovary should be removed. Then next is secondary surgery or secondary cytoreductive surgery may be done in some selected cases. Secondary, second time, where there is no response or partial response to primary chemotherapy. Primary chemotherapy, full course of chemotherapy is given, but there is no response or partial response, which can be known by the tumor markers estimation. Usually say 125, or recurrence following primary cytoreductive surgery and chemotherapy. If there is recurrence, and following initial suboptimal debulking followed by the chemotherapy. In the interval debulking surgery, there is that was suboptimal, not complete tissues are removed. Suboptimal means more than 1 centimeter diameter of tissue, malignant tissue is still remaining, still left, suboptimal debulking. So in that case also, secondary surgery is indicated. Then clinically persistent tumor at second look laparotomy. When second look laparotomy is done, clinically there is presence of tumor. So secondary cytoreductive surgery should be done to remove the malignant tissues as far as practicable. Then what is second look surgery? Similar to the staging laparotomy. First primary surgery, staging laparotomy is done. That is like that second look surgery. It is done by laparoscopy or laparotomy. It can be done by laparoscopy by efficient laparoscopist surgeon, or by laparotomy, or also by laparoscopic assisted robotic surgery. And the second look surgery is done in patients with no evidence of persistent tumor after an interval of chemotherapy. And this in second look surgery, there may be different findings. The findings may be, number one, negative both clinically and microscopically. Clinical negative and microscopically negative, or the microscopically positive but clinically negative, or both positive, both clinically and microscopically positive on the second look surgery. Then laparoscopy prior to laparotomy is advised. Some advises laparoscopy surgeons are interested to laparoscopy prior to laparotomy, but it should be done by the experienced laparoscopist, because there is also a risk of port carcinoma, port malignancy from the port site malignancy is possible. And nowadays, CT and MRI and serum CA-125 are being evaluated as an alternative to second look laparotomy, because nowadays second look laparotomy is not done usually, because the residual tumor can be known by CT, MRI, and even by PET scan and by the level of serum CA-125. So usually second look laparotomy is not nowadays done usually, and that is why it is questionable. Second look surgery is not usually done. Second look surgery determines the residual tumor, but that can be determined by the CT, MRI, or PET scan and serum CA-125. So it's not required. So what are the prognostic factors of the treatment of malignant ovarian tumor? So the most important is surgical stage of the disease. More the stage, more the poor prognosis. Then histological type, it depends upon the histological type of the ovarian tumor. If endometrial tumor, then the prognosis is good than that of serous type or mucinous type. Then it depends upon the grade of the tumor. If it is grade 1, the prognosis is good, well differentiated tumor, than that of the grade 3, which is poorly differentiated, so prognosis is bad. Then it depends upon cytology also. Presence of positive malignant cells has higher risk, prognosis is not good. Then presence of ascites also has higher risk, prognosis is not good. Then presence of metastatic disease before cytoreductive surgery is also having bad prognostic factor. Then it depends upon the volume of residual tumor. If the volume of residual tumor is less than 5 mm, better the prognosis. Prognosis is better. Then it depends upon the diploid or aneuploid tumor. In diploid tumors has better prognostic factor than that of aneuploid tumors, which has bad prognosis. Then it depends upon the degree of oncogenic expression. If there is more excess oncogenic expression, then there is bad prognosis. Then what are the 5-year survival? Approximately depend as the stage is increased, the 5-year survival rate decreases from 90% in stage 1 to 5 to 10% in stage 4. Then next is germ cell tumors of ovary. It arises from the embryonic germ cells, and about 15 to 20% of all ovarian neoplasms, and it is the second common ovarian tumor, germ cell tumors. And about 3% of tumors are malignant. And germ cell tumors occur predominantly in children and young adults. Then dysgerminoma, it is one type of germ cell tumor. Dysgerminoma, it is the commonest malignant germ cell tumor, and it arises from undifferentiated form of germ cells. Because there are two types of germ cells, undifferentiated or differentiated germ cells, and dysgerminoma arises from the undifferentiated germ cells, and it is often 5% associated with dysgenetic gonad. And the counterpart of dysgerminoma in male is seminoma. And in the majority of cases, it occurs before 30 years. And the tumor marker is HCG, human coronary gonadotrophy. And when it is increased, it confuses with the diagnosis like pregnancy, where HCG also increase. And it may coexist with pregnancy in about 30%, and associated with choriocarcinoma or endodermal sinus also. Dysgerminoma also associated with choriocarcinoma or endodermal sinus tumor. And other tumor markers are alpha-fetoprotein and HCG. And karyotyping should be done, especially when a premenarcheal girl presents with pelvic mass with presence of Y chromosome. Then what is the treatment of dysgerminoma? As majority of dysgerminomas are confined to one ovary only, it's usually stage 1 at the time of diagnosis. And if in young patient, fertility is to be preserved, so laparotomy for surgical staging and unilateral salpingo-oophorectomy is sufficient because one ovary is involved. And if there is any suspicion of involvement to the other ovary, contralateral ovary, then there is bisection of contralateral ovary and external biopsy should be done. External biopsy should be done for histopathological examination. And it is sensitive, distal immunogen are sensitive to both chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And after surgery, systemic chemotherapy is the treatment of choice. The chemotherapy with carboplatin in a dose of 400 milligram meter square intravenously every 4 weeks for 6 courses as a single agent chemotherapy can be given. And BEP, bleomycin, etoposide and cisplatin, or in different combinations there, BBP, vinblastine, bleomycin and cisplatin, VAC, vincristine, actinomycin and cyclophosphamide. These are different combinations can be used for the treatment of germ cell tumors. And patients with Y chromosome as detected on karyotyping should have both the ovaries to be removed. Bilateral oophorectomy should be done if Y chromosome is present on karyotyping, especially in case of young patients. So what are types of malignant germ cells? Germ cells. It may be distal now we have discussed, and another variety is embryonal carcinoma. Again, that differentiates to endodermal sinus tumor or choriocarcinoma, or it may be embryonic cells, that is again differentiated to teratoma, mature teratoma or immature teratoma. Mature teratoma may be cystic or solid, out of which cystic mature teratoma is dormant cyst, benign, mostly benign, but it may be immature teratoma. So in this endodermal, we have finished the dysgerminoma, then another is endodermal sinus tumor, another is immature teratoma. So radiotherapy, it is not used in young patients, and in case of recurrent disease, combination of chemotherapy or radiotherapy can be used, and other combination chemotherapy with POM-AC, many drugs are combined here. P for cisplatin, O for oncovin or vincristine, M for methotrexate, B for bleomycin, A for actinomycin D, C for cyclophosphamide, E for etoposide. This combination also can be used. And about radiotherapy, patients who had been treated with combination chemotherapy earlier, again there is, if there is recurrence, and which can be shown by the tumor marker level, so radiotherapy has a role. So overall survival following unilateral oophorectomy in early stage, stage 1, where the only single ovary, one side ovary is involved, the survival is 100%. And following cisplatin based combination chemotherapy in advanced disease is 75%. Then what are the recommended chemotherapy, BP or PPP? Bleomycin 15 units per meter square every week, etoposide 100 milligram meter square on days of 1 to 3 at interval of 4 weeks, then cisplatin in a dose of 100 milligram per meter square every 3 weeks, and vinblastine 12 milligram per meter square every 3 weeks. So these are given for 3 to 4 cycles. So this combination BP or BPP combination can be used. Then another germ cell tumor is immature teratoma, which is derived from the germ layers, that is ectoderm, mesoderm and endoderm, and it is usually about 1% of ovarian teratomas, and it is third common germ cell malignancy, and commonly about seen in women between the younger age group, 10 to 20 years. Half of the cases seen in younger age group between 10 to 20 years. And immature teratomas are almost unilateral, never bilateral. And the serum marker is serum alpha fetoprotein, which is raised. And treatment of immature teratoma is unilateral oophorectomy with the surgical staging. This is the treatment and of choice. And in elderly women, total hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo oophorectomy is the treatment of choice. And adjuvant chemotherapy should be given. Means after surgery, chemotherapy should be added. Adjuvant chemotherapy for patients beyond the stage 1A, G1, grade 1 is indicated. And BP is a preferred combined chemotherapy. And also VAC regimen also can be used. Then another is endodermal sinus tumor. Again, it arises from the primitive yolk sac and mostly seen between 15 to 20 years of age, and it is second most common malignant germ cell tumor ovary, and usually these are unilateral and usually solid, more than 10 centimeter in diameter, and here and specific is the ciliar duval body is specific. Within this, there are presence of cystic spaces, and within space there is of course the ciliar duval body specific to the endodermal sinus tumor. There may be eosinophilic hyaline bodies containing alpha fetoprotein, and other proteins are also constant. Microscopic feature may be present, and it is highly malignant and spreads to the adjacent structures rapidly. It is highly malignant. So usually it is solid, and cross section shows gelatinous or hemorrhagic areas, and it is composed of yolk sac, endoderm, and extraembryonic mesoblast. So at the treatment, surgical staging again, and unilateral salpingo oophorectomy in generally the treatment of choice in young patients, and all patients need subsequent chemotherapy or adjuvant chemotherapy is a must, and total hysterectomy and contralateral salpingo oophorectomy do not improve the prognosis in any way, but in elderly cases, total hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo oophorectomy is a better choice. Then chemotherapy. It also routinely used by combination chemotherapy, and different combination regimens are there. VAC, VPP, and POM-SC we have already discussed. Different combinations are there, and usually combinations containing platinum-based compound, 6-platin, are associated with better response and survival. And it produces alpha fetoprotein. This is the tumor marker. Then non-gestational ovarian choriocarcinoma. So ovarian choriocarcinoma may be gestational. We have already discussed ovarian. Gestational means following the pregnancy, molar pregnancy or ectopic pregnancy or normal pregnancy or abortion. That is gestational. This is non-gestational ovarian carcinoma. So non-gestational arises from one element of a solid teratoma. So mostly the patients are before 20 years of age, younger age group, and usually isosexual precoxous puberty is common in about half of the patients. And it consists of both cytotrophoblast and syncytotrophoblast, and secretes gonadotropin, SCG, like that of gestational choriocarcinoma. And it is also SCG is a tumor marker in this case, non-gestational choriocarcinoma, and but it is not sensitive to methotrexate like that of gestational choriocarcinoma, which is sensitive to the methotrexate. And surgery is the primary treatment and followed by the chemotherapy. MAC or BP regimen can be used. So surgery is the most important. Another is gonadoblastoma. It is also a rare ovarian tumor and it consists of germ cells and gonadal stromal cells. And dysgenoma is present in 50% of cases of gonadoblastoma. And these patients present with primary amenorrhea, virilism, because androgen is the hormone secreted. That is why primary amenorrhea or virilism the patients may present. And karyotyping is 45X or 46XX or 46XY. And it is in 30% cases, it is bilateral. And the treatment is surgical removal of the tumor and also the contralateral ovary or opposite ovary also should be removed. And here there is excellent prognosis. Then mixed germ cell tumors. The presence of more than one germ cell tumors is considered in this group mixed germ cell tumor. This different combined germ cell tumors. Dysgerminoma is the most common. In mixed germ cell tumor, it combines the other germ cell tumors, and complete surgery followed by the chemotherapy is the treatment of choice. Then another group of ovarian tumor is sex-cord stromal tumors. Apart from epithelial and germ cell tumor, the next is sex-cord stromal tumors. So these tumors constitute about 6 to 10% of all ovarian neoplasms, and the peak incidence is about over the age of 50 late age, and 50 to 30% of these tumors produce hormones. So these are known as functioning tumors, either estrogen or androgen or mixed. So these tumors are granulocyte tumors, which is most commonest tumor, sex-cord stromal tumor, and others are thecoma, fibroma, and Sertoli Leydig cell tumors or androblastoma and gyneroblastoma. That is mixed. So first is the commonest sex-cord stromal tumor is granulosa cell tumor. It constitutes 2% of all ovarian neoplasms, and the tumor originates from the rest of primitive granulosa cells. And it is bilateral in 2% of cases, and it is low-growing tumor, slow-growing, and the size varies. And so also the consistency may be solid or cystic, and the cut section shows yellow or orange due to lipid content. The microscopically, the cells are round or polygonal with granular eosinophilic cytoplasm with ill-defined border, and the tumor cell nuclei are variable in size. The peculiarity is coffee bean nuclei. The cells are with coffee bean nuclei. And the cells are arranged in a number of architectural patterns and commonly follicular type. And another specific to granulosa cell tumor is presence of Kohl-Exner bodies. It is the pathognomic of the or characteristic of the granulosa cell tumor, Kohl-Exner bodies. So it is two types, adult variety and juvenile variety, and juvenile tumor has less number of Kohl-Exner bodies and less number of coffee bean nuclei compared to the adult variety. Adult variety is common than the juvenile variety, and here the tumor cells secrete inhibin, and it is an useful marker for the disease. Inhibin is tumor marker, and tumor produces estrogen. There may be associated endometrial hyperplasia in about 50% cases due to secretion of estrogen, and due to unopposed estrogen action, there may be association of endometrial carcinoma in about 5 to 10% cases. Then treatment is laparotomy and surgical staging should be done, and unilateral salpingo-oophorectomy is the treatment of choice. And metastatic disease and recurrences have been also treated with chemotherapeutic regimes, combined chemotherapy, that is BP regimen, and here the prognosis is also good. Then thecoma, another sex-cord stromal tumor. It is predominantly lesion of postmenopausal age, and it may occur as a distinct entity or mixed with granulocyte tumor. External appearance looks like fibroma and cord surface islands of yellow tissue separated by the gray fibrous septa, and microscopically cells like that of cortical stroma with areas of granulocyte cells. And here there is estrogen secreted more amount, so there is chance of endometrial hyperplasia and also endometrial carcinoma. And it is also responsible for postmenopausal bleeding. And treatment surgically, total hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy is the treatment of choice, and the younger age group, conservative surgery should be done. Then fibroma, another sex-cord stromal tumor, fibroma, and it is also in postmenopausal women. It occurs and derived from the stromal cells and similar to thecoma. And another syndrome specific, that is mixed syndrome, where there is ascites and right-sided pleural effusion and ovarian fibroma. It is specific to the fibroid. Ascites, right-sided pleural effusion and ovarian fibroma. That is mixed syndrome. Another is Sertoli Leydig cell tumor, that is sex-cord stromal tumor. It produces androgen. So it is usually unilateral in 90% cases, and on cord surface, yellowish tinge with areas of hemorrhage and necrosis, and it often resembles to various testicular cells such as Sertoli Leydig cells. That is why it is known as Sertoli Leydig cell tumor, and specifically produces androgens. And treatment, unilateral oophorectomy for younger women, and for older women, total hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy should be done. And followed by the adjuvant chemotherapy is required. Then metastatic tumors of the ovary. It constitutes about 5% of all ovarian tumors. And the primary sites from any other site, distant sites, usually the common site is gastrointestinal tract, that is pylorus of stomach or colon, and rarely small intestine, and other sites are gallbladder, pancreas, breast, endometrial cancer, and sometimes cancer cervix, squamous cell carcinoma, that is about 1% cases, and mostly the primary site is stomach, that is in about 70% cases. The primary site is pylorus, it is in 70% of cases. And what are the mode of spread? Usually retrograde lymphatics or by implantation from metastasis within the peritoneal cavity. Malignant cells from the stomach reach the superior gastric group of lymph glands, which also receive the lymphatics of the ovaries. That is why stomach is the most commonest primary site in about 70% cases in case of metastatic ovarian tumor. So it can be also through the hematogenous spread, and usually it is bilateral, solid with irregular surfaces, and peritoneal metastases are present, and also there may be presence of ascites, and there are also involvement of the omentum, and these are usually solid. Then it may be atypical metastatic secondary metastasis. That is, the atypical is known as Krukenberg tumor, in which the histological picture differs from the primary one. In typical secondaries, the histological picture does not differ from the primary one. But here, the atypical group, that is known as Krukenberg tumor, the histological picture differs from the primary one. And the metastatic tumors from the GI tract can be associated with sex hormones, estrogen and androgen production. And the patients may present with postmenopausal bleeding. On naked eye appearance, usually bilateral, solid with smooth surfaces, and usually maintaining the shape of the ovary. Shape of the ovary is maintained and typically form rounded or reniform, firm and white masses. It may be vacillated, and there is no tendency of adhesion, and capsule remains intact, and it looks usually yellow or white, and cut surface has waxy consistency. On histopathology examination, stroma is highly cellular mucin with epithelial cells compresses the nuclei to one pore and producing the signet ring appearance. This is also specific in case of Krukenberg tumor. So scattered signet ring looking cells are characteristic of Krukenberg tumor, which is the atypical secondary metastasis of the ovarian tumor. It has a very poor prognostic value, and usually the median survival is less than 1 year. Thank you. Any doubt? You can ask. So it is very difficult and great challenge for managing the malignant ovarian tumor, but it can be also managed. Though the primary or gold standard is the primary surgery and also chemotherapy. Thank you. Finished. Any question? No. No, I have told. Any doubt you give to in question box, na? Open.
Already open.
Open, na? Okay. Thank you. No doubt. Thank you. No doubt. Thank you. Yes. No doubt.